What's up, Lowlives? It's your boy Rhino back with another episode of the best motherfucking podcast on the internet, the Lowlife Podcast. With me, as always, my trusty co-host, Danny Panhead.
Call me fucking One-Eye Dan right now. I got something lodged in my fucking eyeball. Excuse me. God, welcome to your Friday, motherfuckers. Oi, oi. How we doing?
Dude, I hate when that happens. Like,
God, like
I
right
get
as you
shit
hit.
in my eye periodically at the worst times.
Oh, soon as I saw the countdown, I was like, what the fuck? All right,
And
I'm good.
eyelash is just like, yeet.
Yeah, I'm good. We're here. All right.
We are today. Actually, I got to see if there's anybody in the
You'll
in the
chat me.
live. Where's that live? Where's that chat?
Oh.
Okay, we got some people coming in. How come I can't see the comments? There we go.
What the hell? Is it studio chat or public chat? Studio?
Somebody say something in the chat. We don't know where to look.
I've got-
Ayo. Okay, yeah, public chat. We got Silver. We got Dakota. Ayo, what up, gentlemen? Thanks for joining us, guys. I just want to say one thing. You Patreons are making this Idle Hands show happen. I'm going to repeat myself. Patreons of this show is making this fucking show happen. Dollar for dollar, you guys have every Patreon cent is sitting in an account right now since we fucking started this thing. I've been paying for this program and other shit out of my pocket just to maximize the amount of contributions to the show. You guys are making it happen. You've raised most of the money. So first and foremost, thank you guys for supporting us. But you're really making this show happen. It wouldn't have been possible, or I'd be biting my fingernails right now if we were just relying on the fundraising. So thank you very much. Everybody who has been donating to the GoFundMe, who has been donating to the raffle that we have going on, thank you, because you're also making this show happen. And I'm hoping that this month we get a huge boost and we can close. We're not going to close the fundraising down because we want to raise $1 million. That's the goal. That's the real goal. But we do have 2 fundraisers going on in the month of February, so I just want to touch on those real quick. Danger Dan, MC Shop Tees subscription. Okay, so give to the GoFundMe in the month of February, $10 or more. $10 gets you a spot. You are going to get a subscription to MC Shop Tees. And I'm sorry to say, I have some insider knowledge. All right. I was talking to Dan this morning. Next, the February t-shirt is done and it's fucking sick. And you can't get it. If you didn't sign up last week when I told you to sign up, you're not going to get February. You have to have paid by February 1st. So you're fucked and you're not going to get this. You should have listened to me, bro. You gotta fucking sign up now. Go to MC Shop Tees, sign up and put Lowlife as the discount code and get $10 off your first month. He charges what, $26 a month for a subscription. You get a t-shirt, a postcard of a fucking cool shop with original art. Mm-hmm. He works with a different artist every single month. It's high quality t-shirts, but dude, it's $16 if you put in code Lowlife. So go get a $16 shirt, you momo. Dude, t-shirts are going for like $40 now. It's fucking insane. So at least go over, put in code Lowlife, sign up for MC Shop Tees. If you win the GoFundMe February thing, cancel your subscription. You got it for free, right? But GoFundMe $10 will get you entered for MC Shop Tees subscription. If you want your chance to win an original piece of Idle Hands art, which will eventually be confiscated from you and put into a museum because it's such a masterpiece. Muzzy the Wop's triptych. He said it's like 18 by 26 or something. It's fucking massive, dude. Each panel, 3 panels. It's the official Idle Hands. It's totally fucking original artwork from Muzzy the Wop. If you want that in your living room over your couch, if you want a house that has like Scarface vibes or like Belly vibes, because Belly was actually filmed in the Scarface house, you're gonna want this fucking hanging on your wall, dude. So $10, Venmo us $10. Links in the bio for all this shit. Go to our IG, links in the bio if you forget. Or just like if you're scrolling on IG, I fucking post it every goddamn day. But this is our big push. MC Shop Tees, Muzzy the Wop, original triptych. I'd like to get to 10 grand by the end of February. We're going to see if we can make it happen. I know it's ambitious, but you know what? You only get one lap. You know what I mean? And if you don't got $10 to cough up for a fucking original piece of art that nobody else will have, like I'm like, hey Muzzy, on the DL, can I get this triptych for my fucking shit? And he's like, no, this is to raise money. This is original piece of art. We don't fuck around here, okay?
Mhm.
So, anyways, get in on that and let's make that final push. Dakota, I signed up after Dan said their quality.
They really
Good
are.
man, Dakota.
They're
Good
they're
man.
fucking killer. I think I'm wearing one right now. Yep, I'm wearing my Morris Magneto,
Ooh,
which if you didn't get this one, you really fucked up. This might be my favorite one. Check this
Dan's
shit out.
stripping. I think I'm gonna have to clip this and put it on our OnlyFans.
I'm just showing you the back, you fucking perverts. Pretty
That is sick,
cool.
dude.
Fuck yeah. So most of my
Great.
shirts are MC Shop Tees. I started throwing away all my old shit. So it's just MC Shop Tees. I'm gonna sign up my son for it soon as well. So yeah, go do it.
Oh yeah, that's a good
Especially
point. We
now
got
while you got a
fucking
fucking
hey
discount.
guys, Valentine's Day is coming up.
Yep.
You got lady sizes or lady
Sure.
listener, lady low lives. I'll tell you what, man. If my girl on motherfucking Valentine's Day gave me an MC Shop Tees subscription for a year, I'd be
Mhm.
laying the pipe that night. I might even go as so far as to maybe engage in a little bit of foreplay. Okay? So that's
Prude.
an excellent when this drops, guys, go sign up and give it to your significant other. Awesome gift. And by the way, it's a $16 t-shirt. Sign up for 1 month. You're stupid not to. I don't know who's going to be if you sign up today, it's going to be you're going to get the March one. I don't know who that is. But I'll tell you this. If you didn't sign up for February, you fucked up, dude. You fucked up.
Yeah,
All
you
right.
did.
Any more housekeeping?
No, I reckon that's it.
Okay. Really appreciate everybody not blowing up our spot on the Venmo and just putting a little clown face. That's very helpful. You know, none of the buzzwords that they're looking out for. You know, to know that we're gambling. But appreciate you guys. This is going to be a new series that we're starting today. We're going to call it. I don't know yet. I was thinking how to build a chopper like a low life because that's all we know is what we know, right? So we'll preface this whole thing by saying we will be consulting with professionals, people that are award winning, you know, bike builders. But me and Dan have built our fair share of bikes, and some of them even come out halfway decent. So this is for not only people that are just, I mean, if you're brand new to chopping and you're like, I don't know how to fucking chop a bike, you know, I don't know the first thing, I'm scared. Wah. Listen to this series, and it'll turn you from a milk a toast bike builder to a motherfucking chopper god. Guaranteed. Guaranteed, dude. So we're going to kick it off today. We're going to start where you usually start things at the beginning, right? So, real quick, when are we opening up vendor spots for the show? Very soon. Very soon. We're mapping out the location for the Idle Hand show, uh, and we're going to be making it public when vendors are open, and then we'll have to take in the vendors, and then we'll have to accept the vendors. So it'll be a bit of there's limited space for vendors. We just have too much cool shit at this show. All right. So first place you're going to start is picking a platform. All right. So I'll say my piece on this really quick
Sure.
because it's pretty simple to me. I don't like I joke about iron heads and shit, but I owned my first Harley was an iron head, and I still kind of miss it. It was the first bike whose frame I cut in half and the first hardtail that I ever bought. So I'm not like an iron head guy, not my cup of tea specifically, but I don't hate on any bike. Like the only criteria that you need for which platform you should pick is whatever you're stoked on, you know? Like if you get a free bike and it's a fucking V Star or something, if you're stoked on that bike, you can build a chopper. You know, there's enough information out there and there's an aftermarket parts and there's enough tooling and there's enough people who have already done that shit that you can build it on any platform. So I don't think at this point, like maybe 10 years ago, it would be hard to build a V-Star, but there's dudes that have done that or on a
Yep.
Savage or whatever the fuck you have. But my only piece of advice, and take it from a guy who's owned probably 100 bikes in the last 10 years, and I've only completed like 6 builds. You have to be stoked because if you're not stoked on what you're building, then you're gonna lose the passion because building a chopper is really fucking hard, especially if you're borderline retarded like me. Like if you're not a mechanic, if you're not a gearhead, if you're not like one of those dudes that just naturally can pick up a wrench and fucking do anything, like I struggle the whole way and the struggle is real. And when it gets too real, you say, fuck this XS 650 that my dog pissed on. You know? True story. So yeah, just whatever bike you have, definitely sentimental attachments. Like you had a buddy die or something and he gives it to you, or your dad passed on his old fucking whatever he had. He had a fucking gold wing. Like if you're stoked on that being your project, then that's the only criteria. It doesn't matter. If your heart wants a shovel head, but you ain't got shovel head money, I say hustle and get the shovel head. Wait and get the shovel head. Don't buy like I did. And I'm telling you this from past experience. I bought the $1,000 iron heads for years, but I just never got stoked on them. You know what I mean? So I just never completed them. So that's a honeypot there. If you see any kind of bike going for $1,000, like there's some people that'll tell you to buy them all, but dude, you can't trick yourself for very long. You can trick yourself for a little while, but eventually you're just going to be like, I ain't putting in the early hours or the late hours, the long weekends or I'm not spending all this money on this piece of shit. So if you're stoked on it, then that's your guiding light. What do you say?
I agree wholeheartedly. I think have an idea. I wouldn't say know what you want to build before you get your bike because I've never done that, but have an idea. You know what I mean? If you're like, I want a long bike, I want this kind of drivetrain specifically. Like I went out and got my Evo. I was on the hunt for an Evo. You know what I mean? So know what you're looking for. And there's a few different ways to do it. You don't necessarily just have to go buy a bike. Obviously, having a donor bike is the easiest way to do it because with your donor bike, you get your regulator and all your electrical parts and all your fucking everything else. You know what I mean? You get an assembly, you get an entire motorcycle. So you can bastardize whatever you need to, but you've got everything you already need. You know what I mean? Your ignition
Mm.
system, yada, yada, yada. I have done it both ways. My first bike, the Gypsy Witch, was a donor bike that I had, was an assembled motorcycle. I did a couple goofy things to it. Then I did a bunch of shit to it. And then so that one I had everything. And I eventually, as I got better at building or more knowledgeable, I would replace parts and shit like that. Didn't have any stock ignition system or anything like that on it eventually. So that kind of makes it easier. But you can also go, I want a fucking big twin Evo and a 4-speed ratchet top and whatever wishbone frame, and you can piece it together too. That makes it a lot more difficult. It makes it a lot more expensive, really, in the long run, because you have to purchase or acquire all of your ignition shit, all of your electrical shit, all of the other
And it
stuff. You
depends
know
on
what I
your
mean?
level of like knowledge too, like
Sure.
if my first bike I bought in pieces, I probably wouldn't know what belonged on a bike. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like your first bike I would definitely recommend if it's your first bike is to get something, and again, that you can afford, right? Like
Right.
in something that's not like like you were saying, all the stuff's there. Like if you're gonna hardtail it, like most aftermarket hardtails you don't need to buy the axle. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it'll fit the stock axle and spacers and shit like that. So it's a lot less money down the like I did the same thing with the shovel head. I had basically a drivetrain and a frame, and I had to
Mhm.
replace everything else. I didn't have the clutch and stuff like that. It takes longer to accumulate those parts. So it's nice to be able to have the whole thing running and all you have to do is you can chop it and it's a shorter road to where you're going,
Right.
like
For sure.
because
I
buying stuff
highly
on fucking
recommend.
eBay and shit is expensive. So like hunting at the
Yeah.
swaps, you ain't always gonna have the thing that you want. And you're not gonna always have it at the price you want or the price that you can afford at the time that the swap meet's going on.
Right. Yeah, for
Those don't
sure.
usually drop on your payday.
Yeah. Swap meets always come when I have the least amount of fuck around money, it seems like.
Yeah.
But yeah, so having a donor bike, I highly recommend an Evo Sportster or an XS650. Get something that has a big aftermarket because you have choices. If you're going to start your very first chopper build with a V-Star or something like that that doesn't have a super robust aftermarket in the chopper world already, you're kind of setting yourself up at a disadvantage. But hey, if you have the chops, fucking do you. I'm not necessarily thinking about this series as like a brandy newbie. I'm just talking about building a bike. Because at one point I was a brandy newbie, and now I would say I'm not a brandy newbie anymore. And I kind of have not fine-tuned, but I've changed some of the things and how I go about doing shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just gathered knowledge. So I'm just kind of trying to cover them all. But
True.
just know if you're going to piece it together, that's rad as fuck and hashtag chopper shit, but it's more expensive and it's more time consuming and there's no other way around. Unless you've got like a big stash of fuck off parts that, you bought a lot on eBay fucking thing 10 years ago or whatever, and you just happen to have everything. But belt drives are expensive. Transmissions
Yeah.
are expensive.
Yeah.
Like all that other shit. Frames are expensive. You need to go to Ted's. Like this shit isn't cheap, especially right now. This shit is not cheap. So just know that going into
a package deal is cheaper than buying it all separately, because someone's going to want 500 for the frame. They're going to want 2,000 for the drivetrain. But yeah, Dingo's saying, in the chat, buy what you can afford and chop it. You'll learn the same amount from a $300 bike or panhead, and that's true. Like if you're in it to learn it, you know what I mean? Definitely buy what you can afford to get into it. You know what I mean? Especially if this is your first bike. Doom says I've always recommended getting a running 98 to 2003 Sportster for the first chop. Affordable, have massive aftermarket. I love that platform. I couldn't agree more. That was that's what I learned on chopping, 2003 Sportster. And, it's bulletproof and reliable. You get to ride the motherfucking thing, You can, I changed that thing 3 or 4 different times over the years before I did a full frame up build, you know what I mean? And you learn an awful lot swapping out front ends and swapping out wheels and fucking, I did my first top end on that. But yeah, those things are fucking bulletproof, dude. So that's another consideration too, is like, what are you going to be using this for? Is it a Bahapa or is it or do you want to go to shows? Like, do you want to ride this thing on the interstate? So it's true, like riding in groups of people that have different motorcycles. Like if you have a 1200 Sporty, you're going to go way faster than an XS650, like stock formation. Obviously, those things you can tune and punch up and all that shit. But like, it's been my experience that guys on smaller platforms, they don't go as fast as like if you have a fucking 88 cubic inch fucking engine. Yeah. So anyways, just pick your platform, make sure you're stoked on it, and make sure it's, like, I'm at the point now that all I want is the drivetrain, like transmission, engine, frame is a great starting point. And even if you don't get a frame, at least enough parts so you can sell to afford a frame. Because there's frames out there, there's hard-tailed frames, but like for a shovel frame, people want $1,000 for them. Pieces of shit, rusted out motherfucking frames. So sporty frames are a little easier, a little cheaper, probably in the five. And again, this is we're in New Hampshire, so it's different depending on where you are. But I'd just say usually, unless it's like you like the wheels and you want to run them, like the rims and you want to run them, or you like something else about the bike, just, maybe even throw out a fucking price for a drivetrain if someone has a fucking piece of shit or something. But it's always best to just get the whole fucking thing because you don't know what you can reuse. And like when you chopping this shit up, you can reuse some of these parts, all that metal that you're taking off. Like if it has a fucking center stand on it, those are great for like making little mounts and shit for your exhaust or whatever. Like they're giving you raw materials too. So
yeah. And you're learning how a motorcycle works if this is your first time. You're learning how's your neck put together, where the bearings go, all that other shit. You're learning how that assembly is all one, one piece. And yet we have somebody saying, talk about the title.
I was just going to say, that's a great point to bring up.
It's a great point. It's, to be honest with you personally, that's not something I personally care about or worry about. I don't have a legal motorcycle. And that's just kind of how I do it. Honestly, I've been running the same plate since 2010. So I don't know. I don't really care about that stuff. If it comes with papers, cool. You can go get it fucking title, or you can go get it registered and you're legal. But yeah,
I have a different opinion on this because I get fucked with because I have to get to Dan's house on my motorcycle. I ride by like 4 police stations in 4
true.
little podunk towns. They all fucking those cops, podunk cops, they suck ass, dude. They pull you over. I get pulled over for no inspection on my chopper. Like that's the reason they pull me over. Inspection sticker in fucking New Hampshire, dude, it's the size of a postage stamp on your fucking fork. So it's very difficult to get pulled over for that, I feel, but I get pulled over at least once a year for that shit. So I make sure my shit's at least registered, but it depends on what state you're from. In New Hampshire, it's really easy to get things registered because you don't do a title. They don't do a title on anything that's like over 20 years or something.
Yep.
So if it's like 20 years old, and I don't buy bikes that are less than 20 years old. So it's really easy. You just need like a bill of sale, which you can just forge. Nobody's checking this shit. I just forge the bill of sale.
Yeah.
I don't even ask for it from the guy I'm selling it, buying it from. I don't care. I'll
It
just
could
forge it
literally,
later.
in New Hampshire, it can literally be written on a napkin. I have turned in a bill of sale on a napkin,
Oh
and
yeah,
it's all
yeah.
good.
So one is saying he's from Massachusetts. Massachusetts are motherfuckers, dude. Here's the other thing is we don't have to pay any registration money. You know what I mean? So that's why they don't give a fuck here in New Hampshire because you're not paying sales tax on that, you know?
Right.
So it doesn't fucking matter. But there's a just look into your state laws and shit, and it's like I know in Massachusetts, like I sell bikes to dudes in Massachusetts because like like they always ask that whenever I am like talking to someone and they're from Mass, they're like, "Does it have a title?" Because it's a motherfucker to get that shit, you know. And like when we were talking to EasyCo guys, you know, they were like, "Hey, they're in Mass. They're like, we just buy shit that already has that stuff, you know, because they don't want to fuck with it. It's really hard."
Right.
But yeah, in New Hampshire, it's easy. Vermont, it's super easy. Like there's a lot of states where it's really easy. Nobody gives a fuck. But yeah, it's bougie Billy. It's all about the money. If they're gonna be like I remember when I lived in Rhode Island, I first started buying bikes and they're like, "How much did it cost?" Like, they wanna know how much you have to pay on the sale of that, you know?
Mm.
So, move to a cool state that doesn't have fucking sales tax on that shit, you know what I mean? I wouldn't
Or
be able
fuck
to
the
do
law.
this in Massachusetts, dude. Like, most of my documentation is forged, but yeah, just, there's services out there too. I'll say that there's a guy actually from New Hampshire, Live Free Cycles. He does like that shit, mail-in registration stuff, mail-in titles or Amazon. You know, like there's a place in Wisconsin. You know, I forget the name of the place, but yeah, you pay a little bit of money and then you can get some paperwork for it. On my shovel head, you know, no VIN, all that bullshit. I just bought a frame with a VIN on it, and it had some papers from Maine, and I'm just going to register it under that. You know, the matching numbers and stuff, and like none of that. Nobody gets that deep. You know, I get pulled over by cops. They don't even know what the fuck they're looking at, let alone like looking for VIN numbers and shit. And sometimes you have to do a VIN check. Like I think I have to get a VIN check for this because it's out of state or something. But I'll
Mm.
just point out on the frame where the VIN is. You know, they're not gonna the last time I did this, some lady cop came out and she was just like, "Where's the VIN on motorcycles?" Like they don't know. They deal with cars. That's their milieu. That's their cash cow is fucking people over in cars. Choppers, maybe a motorcycle, but a chopper, dude, they don't even know the laws. They're like, what is this from fucking 1915?" Like my motorcycle didn't even have a VIN issued on it because it wasn't like DOT shit back then, you know? Yeah. So now you got your platform, you're stoked on it, and what the fuck do you do, right? So let's say, I mean, obviously, if you just bought it in pieces, it's time to start piecing that together, right? Well, let's say that you bought a full motorcycle with bags and shit on it. The first thing you do is you uninstall the bags and you throw them in the trash. You stomp them out. You throw them in a fire. Make a bum barrel. You know, I would say like the first thing I do when I get a bike is I completely strip it down to absolutely nothing. So all the wiring you're going to want to rip out and don't try to keep it all as in one piece. You're not going to dude, I've never known anybody to sell that to anybody or even reuse it. Just cut off the components that you need like the regulator has a battery, you might be able to reuse it. You know, like the electrical components that you want to keep and reuse, just snip them off or if they have a fucking stupid plug, unplug them. anything else that's giving you any trouble, if it's like snaking through a fucking just cut this shit out, rip it out, and throw it right in the garbage. Don't worry about it. There's only a few electrical components that you're gonna need from that wiring harness, and they're pretty obvious. Maybe if it has like an electronic ignition or points, you want to keep that part. Keep the spark plugs in the coil, obviously, and then the regulator and the battery if it has a decent one. Everything else can go. You're throwing out the blinkers. You're not using blinkers. You're throwing out the tail light, that huge fucking tail light. You're gonna pry off all the little reflectors too. Don't leave those on there longer than they need to.
Mhm.
Strip it completely down to basically a roller. And this is, this is what I do is I keep the wheels on, I keep the frame pretty much together, and the engine and transmission in. So you have a roller. Everything is off. So fenders are gone. Everything's in a big pile. You take off get it on, if you have a lift, put it on the lift and strip it down. That makes it a huge, having a lift made me at least twice as productive, I think, if not more. But having a decent lift, I had a wooden lift for a long time, and that worked. That was great because I mean, you're not laying on the floor on your cement in your fucking garage, like underneath your bike. You can sit comfortably on it and figure things out, But having a lift is great because you can bring it up and down, and walk around it. So it makes working on it more enjoyable. And I know Dan, you don't have a table lift, but you seem to get it done. But you have a carpet in there, which helps.
Yeah, I put a carpet down.
Is it cement?
It's cement underneath it. It's really
It is
fucked
on,
up
okay.
cement, yeah. But I use jacks and stuff. I am notorious. I've been yelled at by everyone I've ever worked for. Get off the floor, get off the floor. I don't know. I just like to get down there and get it over with, and it is what it is. But as I'm getting older, I'm starting to use the jacks and put the thing up in the air and whatever. But I did use a table for the scythe, and it was really fucking nice having it right up there and sitting on your little fucking stool and working on shit instead of sitting on the fucking actual cold ground.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Especially for like
that's
engine work and shit like that, where you just like it's right at face level. You can
yeah,
have a place to put your tools and shit.
yeah. That's the thing for me is that the top of the lift ends up turning into the fucking toolbox. And
True.
I am blessed where when I know I put something down where I know roughly where I put it down. You know what I mean? Like the 15 millimeter socket, I know exactly where it is where I left it today at work. So
Mhm.
I have that, but a lot of people don't. And it ends up getting fucking real hectic real quick. One thing I want to say while we're on the disassembly stage of this, as funny as it sounds to just throw everything in a box, when you're disassembling shit, before you disassemble anything, go get a fuckload of Ziploc bags
Mm.
and a bunch of fucking markers. I'm telling you right now, this sounds like fucking Poindextery as shit, but I'm telling you right now, when you disassemble your fucking coil mount and you're this and you're that, and you have all these little 7/16 fucking bolts and quarter 20 bolts and this and that, when you go to put all that shit together, you put all your hardware in a cardboard box, fuck's sake, dude. Good luck. Good fucking luck. Put that shit, you take a part off, put that shit in a parts bag, close it, put a piece of tape over it, and write ignition system and put it in the cardboard box. Then when you're putting everything back together, take a fuckload of photos, like Billy's saying, take a fuckload of photos, every angle, every single angle, because you're going to be like, fuck, what did the axle spacers look like? I can't remember what the rear axle spacers
Yeah.
were. And now I can't remember how to space the rear axle. And I could have saved myself so much time, but I didn't take one fucking picture.
Yeah.
Take a shitload of photos and put everything in a fucking labeled bag. It's so much easier in the long run. I promise.
Yeah. And especially if you're new to it. Like I did that. I've been doing that, when I first started getting into it, and I labeled everything, tons of
Yep.
Ziploc bags in a bin. And I had to go back to that to reuse it sometimes because I didn't know maybe what I was looking at. But I'll tell you what now, and this is like, I don't even do that anymore. I just take it off and I throw it away because the choppers that I've built to this point, I don't reuse any hardware. One of my pet peeves is, well, I won't clean hardware at all anymore. It's too time consuming. It's a pain in the ass.
Mhm.
And you can get it like I like to have stainless steel hardware whenever anything that you can see mostly, you know? Plus I got the hookup, dude. Hot tip, hardware is mad cheap if you go through Tractor Supply because they don't do it per piece, they do it by weight. So what I do is periodically I'll go to Tractor Supply and I'll fill up bags, dude. Fill up bags, huge bags, hundreds of 3/4, 1 inch, 1 1/4, 1.5 inch, 3/8, 5/16, 1/4 inch, washers, lock nuts, all that shit. I just fill the bag and I have a stock of them in my garage. I just sort them all and I have all the hardware I could possibly need. They do grade 8, they do grade 5. And here's another little tip for you unsavory characters. Since they're just weighing a bag, you can slip little pieces of stainless steel, button caps, hex caps, all that socket screw. Just stick them in there with the grade 5 bolts, and then they just put it on. Dude, hundreds of bolts. I'm talking like $20. You got a whole stock of that shit. So anything that I've done this a few times, so I'm like, I will never use the old hardware pretty much. So I stopped doing that, but it definitely saved my ass when I was first building bikes because and I still do it for things I know I'm gonna reuse, right? So
Mhm.
I like, definitely with the axle and the spacers and stuff, I don't know how I fuck it up, but I fuck that up every time. So if I'm gonna be
Everyone does.
reusing that axle and the spacers and shit, like, I got a hardtail that would accommodate it, I 100% like, I'll draw a picture of how they go in, and then I'll
Yeah.
put it like a post. I'm a big Post-it notes guy, so I have a Post-it note I got Post-it notes right here. Just get yourself some Post-it notes, stick them in the bag with your parts, zip it up, and throw it in a bin. I will say that I'm not a big box guy. Go down to Family Dollar, dude, and get a fucking big bin for $5.
Yeah, for sure.
Because then it's not gonna slip underneath and fucking fall out the bottom. So I
Yep.
usually do that is, actually that weird metric bike that I got for free, I did that for. I just got a big Family Dollar bin and just started ripping parts off, and since I don't know that bike very well, I did do that. Ziploc bag in the fucking thing. But, if it's a Sportster or an Ironhead or a Shovelhead, pretty much I know those well enough that I know what goes where and what I'm gonna keep, and, I do I highly suggest new hardware wherever you can because especially if you're working on a bike from, like, the '70s, dude, like, you really trust that fucking bolt, and you want it nice and shiny maybe. I guess if you're doing a crusty chop, then maybe you gotta keep the bolts. Gotta keep it crusty.
I'm certainly not. I have a fuckload of hardware to use for things that I'm adding or modify, and now I need a longer bolt or whatever because I put a bung somewhere and now it's a little longer and whatever. But I absolutely will put a fucking wire wheel and a drill and clean up hardware. I don't mind doing that. So it just comes down to how you're going about it or whatever. Especially for your first one. I mean, the bolts are there. You're going to be changing some shit, so you're going to have to go to the hardware store regardless. So that's another thing too. I actually have that on here. Hardware is something that falls into the P's. Prior planning prevents piss poor performance.
Is that
Obviously,
a
there's some
military
shit.
saying?
I heard that way before I was in the
Oh,
military. I
really?
forget. Yeah, I don't remember who. I think it was my uncle or something. Prior planning prevents piss poor performance. But have shit on hand if you can. You know what I mean? Obviously, this is tough because on one hand, we're talking to someone who's never built a chopper before. And then on another, we're talking to a group of people who have built countless choppers. So it's like we're trying to make it relevant for everybody, but try and game plan that shit, your hardware. Do you want to do Rhino and switch everything to stainless? If you're going to do stainless, you got to make sure you have white lithium on hand because if you fucking, you know what I mean? You're tightening down a bunch of stainless nuts and you gall them all, good luck getting them out. You're on the side of the road and you got to fix something. Good
True.
fucking luck. You know what I mean? So know what you're doing before you just do it. That's more or less
Yeah.
what
But
I'm
and
going for.
and back to your point about, like, novice versus professional, we got
Mhm.
Gordon, here in the chat. He's saying, "Take pictures, yes, but put it in its own folder."
Yeah.
That's
Make a
I didn't
portfolio.
I didn't do that. I just had random pictures throughout the course of a year I had to go through. That is a
Yep.
good tip, Gordon,
Yeah, it
is when
really
you're
is.
doing it, be like, plan it. Like Dan's saying, right? Plan it out, take the pictures, put them in a folder, be like, "This is my shit bucket," or whatever, and this is what it looks at. And then you can just reference back to that. That's fucking amazing. Yeah. So put it in
And
your folder.
before Doom gets upset, yes, go buy a manual. Go buy a service manual also. Is it required for you to finish a chopper? No. But it does fucking help, especially on reassembly, especially when you're getting into wiring and shit that you can't remember because you took it apart a year ago. Get a
Yeah.
service manual, it helps.
Yeah, I'm gonna say on service manuals a couple of things. I use service manuals like 10% of the time, right? So like 90% of the time, videos on YouTube or like Chop Cult or one of those forums or something like that because it's easier. But I'll tell you what, it's pulled my fat out of the fire more than once. Is
Mhm.
when you can't find the information that you need and you have the shop manual and they tell you exactly how to do it. I don't read books, dude. Okay, I never have. I'm stupid. All right, I can't read a fucking book, dude. Ask me when, like the last novel I read. I never finished one. Okay, like the last book I read was fucking One Fish, Two Fish. But that service manual, I can sit there and read it a few times, and then I'll be like, okay, now it's clicking, And they have
Yep.
those pictures. But here's the thing: don't get like the Climbers or Hanes. I won't do it, dude. I don't think the pictures are like Xeroxed and shit. You can't see. Like, if you can go to eBay and get the original one, if you can find one for a decent price. But here's my biggest tip. There are people on eBay that will send you the PDF for like $5. They have all the service manuals, they scan them all, and it's
Hmm.
crystal clear. I bought them the last like 3 manuals I got. They'll send you sometimes they'll send you, like, depending on the guy, sometimes they'll ship you, like, they'll print it all out, and it'll be in, like, a spiral binder or whatever, and they'll give you the PDF. Or they'll send you, like, but you get it immediately. So you can go on fucking yeah, Doom, $15 manuals in PDF form. Yeah, I think it's like 15 bucks and you get it instantly. They send you an email right from like as soon as you buy it, and then you can have it on your phone. You have the actual manual, you can zoom in on it and shit. There's no fingerprints on it. So get the digital manual if you can, or if you can get an actual Harley Davidson or whatever manufacturer service manual. Those you can do anything with that bike. Make sure it gets confusing, right? Because they have so many different types of bikes, and make sure it's the one that fits like your specific year. Because there are like some pretty big differences. Like I found out on my shovel head, it was like a 78 and a half versus like a 79. Like there's some pretty significant changes there. Um, so just make sure that you get the right one. But eBay fucking rocks for manuals
Hmm.
for they want $100. They want $130 for like the vintage one or whatever. I don't know. But you can get them and dude, you can even if you get a PDF file for 15 bucks and you like having the physical one, go to fucking I don't know who does this anymore, Staples or Kinko's. I don't know if these are places anymore. Have them printed out. I'm sure someone does that.
Like Doom said, print it out at work.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. That's
Fuck them.
free.
Yep.
Blew through
Yeah.
3 ink cartridges. Yeah, dude,
Manuals
I
are
did that. I did the same
absolutely.
exact thing because they'll have like the electronic addendum or whatever, and it's like this fucking thick. It's like I
Mhm.
didn't need that part.
Yeah.
Kmart
No,
used.
it's good to have a manual. Like Rhino said, I've had a manual get me out of some shit many times. So
Yeah,
I didn't even know the eBay shit. I didn't even know. I've never even considered that. If I can't find something specifically, usually I go to the manual first. If I'm sitting there in the garage and I'm looking at everything, I'll go to the manual first. Unless I know that there's a video on it. If it's like, oh yeah, I've done this step before and I know that Throttle Addiction has a good video on it, then I'll just go right to that video. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
if it's like, oh, how tight do I tighten this fucking axle nut? Or is this,
Torque
here's
specs and
one,
stuff like that
here's
are
a
good.
big one, here's a big one, especially if you're getting into motor shit and whatever, you're rotating assemblies. Is this a left hand thread or a right hand thread nut?
Yeah,
Fucking find out the hard way real fast. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So shit like
Actually,
that for the service manual, that's like,
lacing up your wheel, dude.
yeah.
Like there was a lot of I looked at a lot of videos and I was like, this isn't getting me what I need. You know what I mean? But to lace that wheel, I was able to do it because again, they have different years in these service manuals. And the service manual I have for the shovel head, whatever year it was, they had different lacing procedures for a 16, an 18, and a 19-inch wheel in the service manual.
Mm.
So I was like, sick. So that was like super helpful. But yeah, I'm a proponent of the manual. And again, it's like if if you're asking questions, that's one of the first things a motherfucker's gonna ask you,
I was just
especially if you
getting
don't
ready
know him
to.
that well.
I was just getting ready to say, here's a tip for the newbies in the crowd: do your own research before you go and ask old heads. You'll
Yeah.
get their respect a lot faster if you have done your own research. If you go to somebody, you go to your local OG and say, "Hey, I looked into this, but I can't find a clear answer. This is what I've found." They're going to go, "All right, I can work with that." If you go, "Hey, what do I torque this bolt to?" They're going to be like, "Did you fucking look at your manual? Did you look?" And I know it sounds like a fucking boomer thing to say, that you see on Facebook and all the forums is get the manual, get the manual. But like, that's more than just them saying you should have a service manual. It's them saying, do your own fucking legwork.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Hey, Chopper Bob, I'm going to ask you for this bit of information that took you 40 years to learn. Can you just spit it right out to me real quick? Because I fucking think I deserve it. That's not, our OGs deserve a little more respect than that. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion. But
I
try
think
and
that's
learn.
true for everybody, like because we get a lot of questions in the DMs, and I can tell if someone's like really jammed up or if they just want an easy answer. And
Yeah,
it's you can tell right off the bat if someone has even Googled it. You know what I mean?
right.
Like you should be Googling it and be like, I tried this, this, and this. You should have already done some troubleshooting. I mean, we're always happy to help, you know what I mean? And like based off the information in you know, the DM or whatever, I'll give you my best estimate. But yeah, definitely have the service man. In fact, Chopper Bob, if you ask him a question, he wants the service manual. He wants you
Yeah.
and him to have it because he's going to go, all right, open up to page 81 or whatever,
Mhm.
and he's going to look with you. So, yeah, definitely like do your legwork and you should exhaust like hours of troubleshooting into something before
Yeah,
you start asking questions. Like,
right. Don't Google it once and then say fuck it.
yeah,
Just
Googling is hard sometimes. Defining this stuff is hard. I'll say that like Chop Cult is great for chopper specific questions. Older ones like HD forums, I find a lot of good shit on there.
yeah.
Excess chopper, like depending on what kind of bike you have, like those forums are still like very active, but there's a wealth of information there. So yeah, just like the videos that people have, I would say also you have to, don't be afraid of asking questions and sounding dumb either, because I'll tell you right now, dude, like me and Dan are just dudes. All right. We're not like,
Yeah.
we build choppers, but like barely, you know what I mean? And we have problems all the time. We ask each other shit, Sometimes it gets confusing, So like nobody's gonna
Yeah.
be like, oh, you're dumb. Here's the other thing. That's a boomer thing. Us millennials or whatever, like we're more willing to help. We're not like gatekeeping and shit. But again, we do expect that you have done some troubleshooting. Like
Right.
there's a website called Let Me Google That For You, and you can go there and type in whatever someone's asking you and then just send them the link. And when they open it up, Google will open up, it'll type that into the search bar and then send them the results. So if
I
someone's
love that.
pissing you off, you know, go ahead and send them, let me Google that for you. I used to do that back in the day when I was an asshole. But yeah, gatekeeping is lame, Doom. I agree. Gatekeeping is lame. Help motherfuckers out, dude. Like if dudes are into choppers, like I'll fuck with you. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Until you prove that you're a fucking scumbag in some way. But like if right off the rip, if you're trying to struggling, and dude, I did that shit too. Like I was embarrassed to ask questions and stuff, and I
I
didn't.
still am. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
still
don't.
am. Yeah,
I'll
you should
struggle
be
with
embarrassed.
something for weeks, dude, before I ask someone.
Yes, you should be embarrassed. You should exhaust all, like Rhino said, you should exhaust all of your means
Yeah,
before you go pull on local OG's t-shirt for sure.
yeah, and especially old
It's
men,
just
dude.
yeah,
They demand respect.
right. No, well, I mean, fuck it, dude. They
They earned
a
it.
lot of this shit is something that someone who really knows about this shit, they didn't just learn it because they watched a YouTube video last week. They've been doing this shit a long fucking time. So it's one of those, it's the old adage, you're not paying me.
Yeah.
You're paying me for my time and my experience. You're not paying me for fucking the 5 minutes it took me to answer your question.
Oh, we
You
got
know
a
what I
hot
mean?
tip in the comments though. Fish Tank says askjeeves.com.
Is
Well,
that still
Infinite,
around?
great browser.
Yeah,
If you
dude.
have an old AOL disk you can pop in, I think you can probably still access that site.
No shit. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say like so now we got the bike stripped down, right? You shouldn't have any questions up to this part. Taking a bike apart is fun and easy to do. All you're doing is
Mhm.
loosening bolts, right? Like, and if something doesn't, the best part about chopping too is something is giving you flack and it's not coming off, chop that fucking thing off, destroy it, drill that bolt out. You can replace it. Everything's replaceable. But now you have a now the way I usually do it is you have a roller, you have the engine and all that shit. I usually keep like the oil bag in, the engine in, and the transmission in. Just get all the other bullshit that you're definitely not going to use. And if you're not going to use that oil bag, take it out. If you're not going to use that transmission, take it out. But you want to see how it sits, and that's how you're going to start to plan, but you have an idea in your head on what you want to achieve. So if you're
Yeah.
going to be building a chopper, proper chopper, and you're going to be cutting the bike in half and putting on a hardtail, you're going to have to take everything out. So get yourself a hardtail. I wanted to talk a little bit about, and you should hardtail it too, because in my opinion, and again, nothing against swing arm chops or whatever. In my opinion, choppers are the best bikes. They're the coolest, they're the most comfortable, and I think every bike should have a hardtail on it. If I was king for a day, I would decree that every single bike shall henceforth have a fucking hardtail on it. But that's just my opinion, and I'm not a king. Now you're getting ready to let's talk about hardtails, right? Most of them are pretty good these days. So people ask us
Yeah.
for recommendations every once in a while, and they're like, should I get this one? Should I get that one? Buy a lowbrow one if you want. Like this one is really about budget, I think. There's basically two types. There's going to be the ones that you can buy uh, that have plates, axle plates, and then there's ones that are going to have like the cast axle plates, right? So it's just there's going to be like a I don't know a 3/8 plate of steel or whatever, um, and there's so many of them out there that you can just you can go to Lowbrow, you can go to Deadbeat Customs, you can go to Voodoo Vintage, like all these guys make hardtails for Voodoo Vintage. If you're a metric guy, he makes tons of hardtails that nobody else makes, like tons. I think I just saw one. It was fucking yeah. I have like a Suzuki GS 5 something. He makes a hardtail for it. But I would say your hardtail, most of them are pretty decent. You know, I've heard bad things about obviously anything made by a huge corporation like V Twin. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like they outsource that stuff to other companies that make that stuff for them. I've never personally used one, so I don't know. And I've had people say that they bought them and they're great. So do your research on that. But I would say if you're just building like a basic, if you just want to hardtail the fucking thing, go to any one of these motherfucking places like Throttle Addiction or whatever. All of those hardtails that I've seen have been great. Road 6 Customs. That's the one I did Loctites. I welded that one on. Actually, someone reached out to us recently about that specific hardtail. That'll work on a softail frame with a little bit of you know
Heat and beat.
jiggering, you know,
Yep.
and it'll definitely work on a shovel head. That's the one that I did personally. Good quality. Here's the thing about hardtailing. It's pretty fucking simple from my experience. I haven't run into a ton of fucking problems, but if you cut it in the right spot, which by the way, even if it doesn't come with instructions, that was what actually someone had got the Road 6 one, didn't have instructions. And I was like, there's a YouTube video of us doing that hardtail on Loctite's Chop Shop on YouTube. So you can go and check that out. But I'm pretty sure all we did was hold it up to the frame and mark it because
It
it
was
can only
dead
go
simple. Yeah.
it can only go one way. Like where the frame rails meet, that's where you got to cut it and slug it. So um yeah, as far as hardtails go, buy whatever the fuck you want. They're all pretty decent. And if you want to spend more money for the cast axle plates, I would do it. I would definitely
Yeah.
do it.
Lowbrow is doing hardtails now with cast axle plates. So
Yeah, that's right.
there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep. Yeah.
Voodoo,
I was
Gordon says
gonna
Voodoo hands down is one of the best. I'll say this. I'm actually running it on this shovel head. I ran it on my other shovel head. He actually will answer your questions too. Cause he's a dude. He makes these, but I reached out to him because I had a question about it because they're very narrow. The ones for the shovel heads, you have to get like a really short fucking axle because the stock one's like 12 and 3/4 inches or some shit. And I think that one, like, inside dimension is like 8 inches. So I reached out to him and I was like, do you have any suggestions on axles? Because those are actually kind of hard to find. I ended up using an axle for a front end. I think I got it off of TC Bros. Yeah,
Hmm.
TC Bros. They sell like for their Moto Iron Springer or whatever. So, anyways, that's a tip. Maybe save you some strife. But yeah, buy whatever you want and definitely do it. Definitely cut it. But now we get into now you've cut your fucking motorcycle in half. Absolutely ruined it. All right. Now it's worthless. You fuck up. You fucked up everything else in your life. Now you fucked up this perfectly good motorcycle because you want to look cool. Good for you. Now you got to weld the thing back together. So make your cuts. Most of them come with instructions. Definitely like Lowbrow Throttle Addiction. They have good instructions and they have videos online. And if you fuck this up, I mean, you're cutting like 4 tubes. If you fuck that up, then go get another hobby. They come with the slugs. You put it in, it only goes one way. Make sure you just cut off a little long, okay? Because then you can grind it back and fit and make sure it's fucking straight. When we did Loctites, we didn't even we didn't even have a laser level or anything. You don't need a frame jig. You don't need none of that shit, dude. We didn't even have the engine in. And you can measure it with fucking hand tools, basically. So you don't need a jig or any of that bullshit. Having the engine in, if you can do that, will keep it straighter,
Yeah,
definitely.
that's important on Sportsters
Yes. Yeah.
because you're using the engine is holding your hardtail where it's going to be. If you can bolt your
Good
engine
point.
in to the cradle, then there you go. That's where it needs to be. And then you just tack weld where where your rails are, take your motor back out, finish weld. There you go.
Yeah.
So it's really, really hard to fuck it up. I am not a fabricator. I am much more of a fabric cobbler than I am a fabricator.
Yeah.
And truthfully, I could absolutely do a hardtail by myself and not feel super fucking sketchy about
Yeah.
it. So they're not
Here's
that
a
hard,
tip is
but
get a
know how
couple
to
of your
weld.
buddies over,
Yeah.
and that made it a
Somebody's
lot
gotta,
easier. Like the first hardtail I did, just having other people keep your retardation in check and just be
yeah,
like, "Oh, oh, it's coming out on this side," or like, actually, it feels a little bit off. Maybe we should measure it." But it's not rocket science, dude, and you're not gonna
right.
fucking die. And I'm sure I've welded on hardtails that were a little bit tweaked, but they're choppers, dude, and you're not going 120 miles an hour on these fucking things. But the process is really simple. To weld on a hardtail, you slug it, right? So one side of the frame, typically the frame, you're going to drill into the tube and you're going to put a solid metal slug in there, and then you're going to weld that in on one side. Once you get all once you fit it all up and you're like, yeah, I think we're dead nuts. We're gonna go ahead and do that and put the slugs in, and then you pop your hardtail in, and it should fit snug and hold. And then you already pre-drilled the holes. Again, plug weld the slug in, so nothing moves around while you're welding, right? And you can do this. I do TIG welding, so I think it gets better penetration and all that shit, but I'm not a MIG welder. I'm sure you can get the same exact results if you're good. If you're slick with a MIG, you can do the same fucking shit, right? But for me, I do the TIG welding, so get your slugs in, just get everything tacked up, get the slugs tacked up, and just put it and then measure everything. Measure everything. Make sure that a lot of these instructions too, like, one thing that gets fucked up is the axle spacing. You know what I mean? Especially if you're twisting this thing on and it's a really tight fit. You wanna make sure that whatever the manufacturer has as the inside or outside spacing is correct. Because it doesn't matter if it's off anywhere else except for the rear wheel, really, right? Like, that's the only thing that really matters is if there's too little space or too much space. So just make sure that's fine. And then again, back to quality, like most of the hardtails I've worked on, they haven't been super expensive, like the lowbrow ones or fucking whatever, or even like Voodoo Vintage. They're pretty solidly built. Like the Voodoo Vintu one, I'll just say this because I worked on my last two. They have a cross member that keeps it pretty much where you need it, and it's just tacked in there. So you can move that, and you can always you can redo that or whatever. It's just tacked in there to keep the spacing. But yeah, just have a buddy weld it in. If you don't have a welder, here's what I'm going to say about welding. If you don't have a welding and you want to get into chopping, get a welder. That should be that's going to be your first and most important tool. It's what you're going to use more than anything else to make a custom motorcycle. And if you don't have a welder, you better have a best friend that's a welder. And he better not have kids and a wife because you're going to need his ass over your fucking house every goddamn weekend. So invest in a welder. And we'll get into this a little bit because I do want to talk about welding. But once you got the hardtail on and it's welded in, either your buddy did it or you did it. And again, if this is your first time doing it and you're not comfortable with your welding skills, I will tell you right now that I suck at welding. All right. So like our boy Grease, he's a professional welder, really great welder. He's welded on some of my hardtails. I am a shitty welder. I've welded on hardtails and had professional welders say it was decent. So you can kind of fuck your way through it, You can just kind of fucking fake it and it'll hold. And if you put enough dude, if once that thing's slugged in there, like unless you're taking this thing Evil Knievel style off a fucking ramp or something, like most of your shitty welds should hold. I mean, if you're using a TIG welder and you really penetrate that and you got a solid bead all the way around, you should be good to go. I wouldn't sweat it.
Be a fucking good welder before you weld your hardtail on, for fuck's sake. That's how you fucking die. Listen, I have a 90 amp. I have an Eastwood MiG 90. It is a true MiG. It runs an argon bottle. It's fucking the tits. It's the size of a lunchbox. It works fucking great. Would I weld a hardtail on it with it? No, I would not. I absolutely wouldn't. Don't fuck with your hardtail. That literally holds you onto your frame. If that breaks, you're fucked. Period. I don't care if you're going 5 miles per hour or 500 miles per hour. Don't fuck around with your hardtail. If you're putting a little tab, a little bung, a little fucking whatever, who gives a shit? Fucking Jesus. Make sure you're welding your hardtail on correctly, for fuck's sake.
All right, let's hear it in the comments, guys. Should you just send it and rely on Rhino's advice and put your life literally in my hands? I mean, we got Gordon. He says, "Do not do it. You will die." Joe says, "Send it." Revenant says, "Send it." I don't know. We're gonna have to do a poll.
We'll see how many people are still left in the sense.
The people that are very experienced here says, "Don't do it." But anyways, I say do it. If you're halfway decent welder,
have to be the fucking nun here. Like I'm the safe one in this fucking relationship.
Yeah, dude. It's
That's
split
the only
in the comments. It's about 50.
Yeah.
All right. So, anyways, if you want to play it safe and you don't want to have your frame fall apart on the highway and your rear wheel just flies off into oblivion and you're just riding on one wheel, do a 6-stoppy and then take off your shades real quick when you stop. All right. So
with no front brake,
go ahead and send it out. Go get that welded. Welders, I don't know how much you charge. I know like a professional decent weld job is north of $600-700 now.
Is that about right nowadays? That's not.
I think it's in that neighborhood.
That is not bad.
Yeah, and then it's good. For sure it's good.
Listen, if you're into this shit and you don't know a welder personally, maybe you're not ready for your build yet. Like you gotta have a fucking welder homie in your fucking crew. You gotta. I don't care where you fucking live. You gotta have a welder homie.
Yeah, So if you don't have a welder homie, make a welder homie. Doom's saying he gets 120 for his frames. Where you live, Doom?
Damn. He's Colorado, isn't he?
Yeah, dude. I'm not. Well, anyways, someone told me they were quoted like $700 for a hardtail to weld it. Not even for the hardtail.
Oh, so for 700, I'm thinking I'm giving you a stock frame and you're putting a hardtail on it for me. That's what I'm thinking. If I'm doing all the cutting and shit, then yeah, 120 fucking bucks. That should be the price because you're Like, do you know what I'm
120 seems
saying?
reasonable. Yeah. For
You're
$120, if you're not a decent welder, that seems reasonable. I thought it was more
to
than that.
weld it, not to do your entire hardtail. But I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, maybe that's what they're getting out there. But out here, I think you'd be hard pressed to find somebody to do your entire
Yeah,
fucking
actually, you know what?
hardtail
Maybe
for
that
that.
was the whole deal. Maybe that must have been the whole deal because
That's what I'm thinking.
Chris over at Oxford, he was doing hardtails for 900.
Yep. And he does cast axle plates and fucking he
Yeah.
makes them by
So it
hand
must
and
have
all.
been 700 for the whole fucking thing. So,
Then
all
that
right.
that
I
I
mean,
think is a decent deal. If you're a newbie and you're not comfortable making the cuts and shit, I know I wasn't at first. That's why I built a swing arm chopper. I went through all the extra steps. I will stand here,
yeah.
fucking 10 toes down, and tell you building a decent looking swing arm chopper is more difficult than building a rigid chopper. But I did all that extra shit just because at the time I didn't have a close welder homie. I had a welder homie that I was developing while I was building that bike, and he helped me with that bike. So yeah, get a welder homie for sure, or be the welder homie. Learn how to weld and shit. It's not
Yeah,
hard, especially with MIG.
let's get
It's
into
not
welding
hard.
real quick cuz I think that we're on the topic. It's something I wanted to touch on during this series. You absolutely, if you want to do this for any length of time, you have to get a welder because chopping a motorcycle, you get the fucking, yeah, okay, you get it welded on, you get your hardtail welded on. But if you don't have a welder, then you can't make anything else out of metal custom.
Right.
Like you're going to be bolting on your foot controls. You're going to be buying your handlebars. You're going to be bolting on a DI. I mean, you're going to have to buy a sissy bar or something. Like all the things that make a chopper cool. You have to be able to fabricate. I'm a huge proponent of TIG welding. I think that it gets you at the lowest price point. Like, and again, I don't know much about MIG because I went right into the TIG, but right out the gate, you can get a TIG welder brand new for $500. Brand new from Everlast. They have one that's under $500. That's the one that I got. Then you can do stainless steel and you can do anything, including frames, like with confidence. It's a little bit steeper of a learning curve than MIG welding. Do not, under any circumstance, get a flux core welder.
No,
It's a waste of money. You're not going to want to flux weld anything.
it's so ugly. It's so gross. It's so, yeah. I have one and it's down here and it's been sitting underneath this fucking cabinet for fucking years, dude.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
Yeah, don't do that because like you're how much you pay, you're paying for $100 for a flux core or whatever, something like that.
Yeah.
Dude, you can get fucking a MIG welder on a used one on fucking Facebook Marketplace for
Yep.
about that price. Dude, I knew someone personally that got a fucking Lincoln MIG welder with a bottle and a bunch of other shit for $200 on Marketplace. There's deals like that out there where, and I've seen them, dude. And I've been like, I've been looking to upgrade my TIG welder, and I see deals that are like, dude used it on one project and he's done with it. Some people are like that. They'll buy it, they'll do one project with it, and then they're done with it. So Facebook Marketplace, you can find a good deal. And Gordon brought up a good point here is like, if you get into TIG welding, you're gonna buy the thing, you're gonna buy the TIG welder for fucking 500, but then you need a bottle of argon, you need to fill it, you need all the disposables. But I would say if you're gonna do this long term, TIG welding, you can get really artisanal with, like you have so much control over it. So if you got to get a MIG, get a MIG. I highly suggest the TIG. And you have gone the MIG route and you know how to MIG weld. So I'll let you talk about that. But my suggestion for TIG welding is to buy one on Facebook Marketplace that's used. As far as brands go, I'm not attached to any brand. Okay. They're all pretty fucking good. Dude, I know people that TIG weld with the Harbor Freight TIG welder and they love the motherfucking thing. Zero complaints. I haven't heard shit. If you buy one off Temu or something, God bless your cotton socks, dude. I don't know what the fuck goes into those, but those inverter welders are dirt cheap, and just buy one. You can resell it later. So get the entry level one. Here's what I'll say about TIG welding. You're going to want one. You don't need the pulse and all that bullshit, but you want one with a high frequency start and you want a fucking foot pedal. The ones that come at $500, they just have the little button on the torch, dude. You can't control it. You're going to be constantly fucking with amperage, right? To TIG weld, get TIG welded for like a year and a half before I bought the fucking foot pedal. And the foot pedal brought my TIG welding from dog shit to human shit. Like it was such a huge difference being able to, now I just crank the amperage up. And what the foot pedal does is you can fluctuate how much amperage you're putting into it. So if you're doing sheet metal, right, you want to start, you don't want to just blast fucking 120 amps through that thing, like get the foot pedal right out the gate and learn how to just get a sheet of fucking metal, a piece of scrap metal or whatever, and just start laying lines down. And you just learn by doing that over and over again. Go to weld.com on fucking YouTube and watch 4,000 videos, and you will be able to TIG weld, guaranteed, dude. It's all about just controlling the arc. Make sure your shit is clean. But if you have that foot pedal, you just have a scrap piece of fucking metal, dude, just lay lines. Don't even feed any rod into it. Just stack some dimes just by like laying down an arc and moving your hand and shit, and do that until you can lay down a fucking stack, And I have a bunch of bad habits with TIG welding. Like I am not a good TIG welder. I get the job done, like feeding the wire and stuff. I never really got that great. You know what I mean? But here's a couple of things I'll say about TIG welding. Get you a TIG welder that has high frequency start. At the very least, the lift arc stuff, I don't know. It is too much for me. I like to just be able to push a button or stomp my foot and the arc goes. Watch a bunch of videos on weld.com. They teach you how to TIG weld. And then as for what I've learned with TIG welding is get the chap just chimed in, quality auto darkening helmet. Thank you. I was going to say the equipment that you're going to want to buy, auto darkening helmet, don't get one that's solar powered. All right. So auto darkening is when you start the arc, it'll darken automatically. It has a little screen on the front or whatever that reads like the brightness or whatever, which is kind of a pain in the ass if actually you're in a bright workspace. Sometimes I have to like cover it up so it doesn't darken. But having the auto darkening, you can see what the fuck you're working on because you got to get pretty close in there, especially like those little tight corners and shit to start that arc. Dude, I got a fucking Yes Welder on fucking Amazon for like $30, and it's a full face welding and grinding. And the reason I say not to get one that's solar powered is it's in your goddamn garage, dude. The fucking thing is not outside, and you don't want to go and put it outside and wait for 4 hours till the sun powers it up. Batteries are like fucking $3, dude, and they last forever. So get one that has batteries. Get a cheap ass one. Auto darkening is a must. Plus, if it has a grinding one too, because you can use that for grinding. And then as for disposables, this is my setup. Okay, 30-second tungsten. All right, and then all I use for rod is the smallest one they have. Right, the quarter. What the fuck? 1/8 inch. Someone help me out here. I'm fucking having a brain fart. The smallest rod that they have is typically, I think it's 1/8. Someone correct me. I had a really bad day. 1/16. Thanks, Gordon. All right, 1/16 rod. All I use on everything is the 308L, the stainless steel stuff. You can use it on stainless, and you can use it on mild steel. I find that it just handles better, and it's corrosion resistant because it's like stainless steel. So that's what my setup is. As for cups and shit, I don't get into the huge Furic cups and stuff. I don't do a huge post flow on the argon. I think I do like 6 seconds or something. Pretty much everything I weld is with like a gas lens number 6 is what I use. It's small enough to get into those little corners, like those little places, like if you're doing a sissy bar and you have like a bung and fucking, Like the big cups and shit, I don't know, they get in the way. So I do that on pretty much everything. I don't get fancy. I don't change stuff out. Dude, we're building choppers here, not like fucking airplanes. So it doesn't really matter. The other thing I'll say is get a tungsten sharpener. It just screws onto your Dremel. And I just have a Dremel that I got from Harbor Freight for like $9.99, or maybe it was a free gift, some on the inside track. But it's just a little tungsten. It screws onto the top, and it's just a little blade on the inside. It has a little hole. You stick your tungsten through, and it just gives you the perfect. Depending on what angle you can, they have like different degrees and stuff. But you just stick it in that and sharpen it down. Tungsten, I use the 2% lanthanated. Again, all my disposables are coming off Amazon. I'm using the cheapest shit because you can go on Amazon and get fucking lanthanated fucking 2% tungsten, and they'll give you like 45 fucking sticks that you're gonna cut. I cut them into thirds, dude, because I'm just using a little shorty, right? So when you first get your torch, right, it's gonna have a big long back piece and all these call-outs and stuff. Go on Amazon and order gas lens kit. Gonna come with cups. Get the shorty cups are great. And then it's also gonna have the backer and the call-outs and stuff are gonna be short too. So just make it as small as possible. And you can get a fucking kit on Amazon for like $30, dude. And they work fine. And then you don't care when you fucking drop your torch and you crack a cup, something like that. But yeah, if you don't have to go to Furic and spend hundreds of dollars on fucking disposables, you're just starting out and this is just choppers. So get the cheapest Amazon bullshit that you can actually get. But I would say that when you're setting up your torch, gas lens kit is a big help. Okay. And basically all it is, it's like a faucet, it has a little screen inside that helps the gas flow better or more steady. Like if you take that screen off your faucet and it just starts going everywhere, the little screen keeps it tighter. So gas lens kit, they're wicked cheap. 3/32 and then 1/16 tungsten, 308. Get the I don't even know what the other one is. I don't even know what the fucking mild steel one is. I never use it. But this will get you by and you can do pretty much everything. If you want to get fancy with TIG, you can. But I'm telling you, just bare bones TIG, that's what you're going to need. And you're probably going to be all in. If you get Facebook Marketplace Gold and you get a TIG with a bottle, $400, $500 is a good deal. If it's any of the name brands like Everlast, HP, even a Harbor Freight one. Like I said, I've heard nothing but good things about the Harbor Freight shit. Now you're TIG welding, baby. What about MIG?
Fucking turn that bitch up and shoot. That's it.
It's
That's
so
MIG.
easy, dude.
It's fucking easy.
They have
It's
the
not as
feed rates
clean.
on the side. Like you basically just have to set it up.
Yeah, set it up
squirt.
to where it sounds like sizzling bacon and you're getting a good weld pool, and you can get spatter gel and all that crazy shit and whatever. Like I said, I'm running a MiG 90 from Eastwood. It was $200 shipped. And I welded every bung tab, fucking whatever, captive nut on every bike I've built since I've had it. And it's amazing. I got a little tiny bottle, yay big. I usually have to fill it once per build. Yeah, it's sick. Like I said, I'm not a real big fabricator, so I don't have a whole hell of a lot to say about the welding aspect of it. I learned how to weld at work. So I'm going to be learning TIG this year though. So once I'm squared away, I will be transferring to TIG, at least for shit on the tanks and whatever else, like stuff on the frame. I like MIG because it's just like, especially if you're dealing with old bikes, you have some kind of grimy shit. From what I understand, TIG is very temperamental. It needs to be real clean. MIG is not the case. And I'm not advocating for I don't really mean just turn up your amperage and shoot. Like you're not getting good welds. But I mean, you can do that with MIG. That's kind of how it works. You don't have to clean it. It's not as finicky. It's a lot harder to deal with when you're trying to smooth it out and get rid of, if you're trying to blend your welds and shit, TIG is a lot. Generally it's softer, it's more malleable, it's easier to blend and shit like that, and it also doesn't leave quite as much material in your seams and stuff as long as you're beveling your shit. But either way, without this turning into a weld.com episode, there, just find kind of what you know or what your buddy knows or what you have access to or whatever that can make metal stick together. And if you're not comfortable, then it's not safe. If you're not sure that when you pull the trigger on your MIG gun or fire up your TIG torch, that shit's going to stick and you can make it stick, then
Practice.
don't do it.
You know, use
Practice
it
like
on
a
if you're
motherfucker.
doing tubing or whatever, you have a chunk of tubing lying around, do a fucking quick little zap on it and see what your
Yeah,
penetration looks like, you know? But some
absolutely.
great stuff about MIG that you mentioned is number 1, the cleaning with TIG. You need to clean really well. Acetone, shiny metal, you know, and that's where MIG really shines because you can go over whatever, especially like on a frame that has like powder coat on it and shit. But the other thing is you're spending time with TIG, you're spending time prepping, and you also have to spend a lot of time cooling. Whereas with MIG, it ain't that hot, dude. Like TIG,
No, I mean,
when you lay a TIG weld, dude, that fucking thing is glowing orange.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
and I
another
mean,
plus for MIG.
MIG's hot for sure. MIG's great for tack welding shit. You don't have to get set up. You know what I mean? How many videos have you seen? Someone's going to tack weld something, they just shut their eyes real quick. Like
True.
it's really fucking simple. You know what I mean? Especially in your fabrication phase and stuff like that, where you're dealing with clean. Generally, if you're fabricating things and making things out of metal, you're dealing with clean, bright steel, anyways. But yeah, the TIG's good for non-mild steel too. Like that's kind of why I'm going down the TIG route this year, is because I've exhausted really, I mean, other than going and getting the stainless rolls and all that other shit, which I've never used that. I'd rather just learn how to TIG weld.
Mhm.
It's cleaner and it gives you the opportunity. Once you get into all of it and you get a machine that's capable of it, you can do aluminum, you can do stainless, you can do mild, you can do fucking whatever. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it just helps a lot. You know what I mean? And if you get one of the ones that's also, it's a multi-purpose machine or whatever they call it, where you have stick and TIG, or some of them are stick and TIG and MIG, you know what I mean? That's even better. Multi-process shit is great because there's a reason to do a different process for everything. You know what I mean? So that just, as far as I'm concerned, that comes down to get into welding as soon as you can. You know what I mean? Once you get into this hobby, get into welding as soon as you can. Don't keep putting that one off, because that one's going to be really, really
Gonna
important by the
unlock
time.
so
Yeah,
much
by the time
potential.
you've done a couple builds, you're like, man, I want to be the one that's sticking my mounts on, and I want to be the one that's doing this and that's doing the
Yeah.
molding and whatever. You know what I mean? It just
You can make
it
anything for
completes.
a bike.
Yeah, it completes the cycle. You can make anything.
You can make
Yeah,
a
so
fucking whole frame if you know how to
yeah,
weld, you know?
yep, for sure.
Jordan
Yeah,
brought
but
up another good
it's the
point with
foundation.
TIG is since it gets so fucking hot, if you don't have an oxyacetylene torch, you can bend your sissy bar. Just heat that
Mm,
bitch up.
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, that's pretty sick.
yeah, so MIG or TIG, I would say 100% one of the best tools that you can have in your
Yeah.
arsenal, unless if you have a fucking really gifted welder friend, like Grease for us. Before I got my welder, he did my hardtails, he did fucking this and that too, you know, like, but to be able to do it yourself, it's gonna expedite your build too, because you don't have to wait till someone else is available. You know, you can just fucking fuck around with it. Uh, and really at the end of the day, you know, like this is a hobby. You want to get good at it, right? It's not a fucking accessory. It's not like a fucking a phase that you go through. If you want to build fucking choppers, invest in a welder, get what you can afford to start, and then upgrade later. I've never upgraded, but I really want to because I want to get into the aluminum welding and stuff like that. And I'd love pulse would be wicked helpful to make my welds look better, you know? All right, so you got your hardtail welded on. Now there's a bunch of fucking shit all over this fucking stock frame on the front half that you got to get rid of.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a grinder right there on your table? What are we looking at there, Dan?
So this here, I wanted to show this. I believe I've mentioned this thing, but I was thinking about today's episode. This is the attachment, the
Oh
belt
yeah.
sanding frame tube sander attachment So you've got this right here. If you're not watching the video, sorry, but it's got an articulated arm on a pulley. So you can wrap this some bitch around your frame and you can fucking clean that shit up real fast. So that's really important. I figured that was something that was going to come up. But yeah,
Yeah.
at this point, you're going to be cutting all the shit off that you're not going to use. As far as I'm concerned, if you have a welder or a friend that's a welder, just cut it off. All of it. Fucking get rid of it. Except your fucking engine cradle and shit like that.
Transmission
Like leave your
mounts,
fucking
engine
motor
mounts.
mounts. Yeah, that's shit, right? But as far as like where your key switch was and all that other fucking whatever,
Get it
cut all
rid.
that shit off. Cut your tank mounts off. Cut all that shit off. You can make it yourself. And that's going to bring me into be aware of what you have at your disposal as far as tabs. Do you want to be the person that's going to go to the local getting spot and get 3/8 steel and cut out your own tabs and weld them on? Or are you going to go to Lowbrow, Throttle Addiction, Deadbeat, whoever, the getting spots and get a pack of fucking tabs for $20? Are you going to go get axle spacer material in a lathe, or are you going to get axle spacer uncut material and cut it to length as you need it? It depends on what you're going to do, what you have access to. Are you doing this in an apartment on the sly? Are you doing this in a garage? Are you doing this in a shop? You know what I mean? So tabs, bungs, but like go and look at bungking.com. Go and look at what they have in the fabrication sections in all of these websites and see like top hat bungs are really handy for doing shit like your tank mounts or whatever. You drill a 1/2 inch hole, you drop the top hat bung in, then you weld the top seam or whatever, and there you go. Now you have a threaded hole in a tube. You know, shit like that. Coped bungs, like start thinking about the main thing that I try and think of when I'm building a bike, regardless of the level I'm building it to, right? With the Boot Boy, it was just a beat up bike, and with Scythe, it was more of a pretty bike. I build my bikes with disassembly, repair, reassembly in mind, right? Start thinking about like captive nuts. So instead of having to go underneath your rear tire when you're doing your rear fender and shit like that, and having to fucking your quarter 20 bolt that holds your P pad in, try and feather that up, just weld a nut on the inside of your fender so that all you have to do is screw the bolt down. You know what I mean? Start game planning that kind of shit to make your life easier.
Yeah.
If you have a big ass tire in the way and you can't reach up underneath there, you're either gonna have to take your fender off every single time you have to get into wherever you got to get into, or you have to take your fucking wheel out. Fuck that. You're gonna do all your no, and then you're gonna retension your chain and no. So think about that shit. Think about where you're going to put stuff. This is the point where you're going to be drilling holes if you're going to be doing internal wiring. Start game planning that. There's going to be a wire coming from the very front because you got a light. There's going to be a couple wires coming from your coil. And there's, you know what I mean? So start game planning where that shit goes. That's another.
The other thing, like just like back to when you clean up the tabs and you say, you know, like I 100% agree, cut everything off because you can just like, except for motor mounts, transmission mounts and stuff like that you're going to reuse, or cut them off and use better ones. But when you cut everything off and you grind everything down, you're also going to be removing all the paint too, right? So like this is the time when you just have a frame and it's hardtailed. So the hardtail is raw. The rest of it's probably still going to have powder coat on it. Cut off everything that you don't want on that frame that's ugly, right? And you know, even if it's like a top motor mount, you know, and that you're planning on replacing, take this time to just get it as uniform as possible. Take off all the powder coat. Couple of tools for powder coat that are really great. Harbor Freight has a Bayer. It's a drum sander or whatever, and it spins at fucking like 6,000 RPM. And it comes with one of those things that looks like ramen noodles, and it forms around the fucking tube. Or I have one of these. I just picked one of these up that Dan showed us, the tubing sander or whatever. That's great for polishing too. But yeah, you get all the fucking tabs cut off, ground down, and then make it so the frame like it was never there, right? So ground off all the fucking factory welds and all that, and then take off all the paint. And what you're going to be left with is a blank canvas to start planning out what goes where, right? So we had a couple of shout outs here. We have Fab Tabs on Instagram is great for tabs. I like getting the 3/8 steel from the fucking hardware store and making my own shit because you can make them as long or short or whatever formation you want. And I've been using the shit out of my bandsaw, dude. I love that. That's my second favorite tool now, dude. Like it's It doesn't heat up the metal. You can cut all sorts of like crazy shapes and shit. So like if you're making a tab, you can cut out the shape of the tab on the bandsaw. I got the fucking actually I got it from it was Grease's. He gave it to Loctite and then I bought off Loctite. So it's been in the family, so to speak, for a long time. But I use that thing for everything. So I just get a stick, like a 3-foot stick of fucking 3/8 steel, and I just make that's beefy enough for any tab that you're gonna need. And you can make it as long or as short as you want. And again, you can make it look however you want. If you want it rounded or whatever. And it doesn't take that much time. That's the other thing is if you buy a bunch of tabs, that's wicked nice. I've done that. I haven't found a place that does like the tab, like the builder's kit. Like I don't know if they do that anymore. I find a lot of I buy from Bung King is great for things like the top hat bungs, or specifically, I'll tell you, stainless steel. So any stainless steel tabs or bungs for like your sissy bar or any of that shit, they sell them mad cheap. So Bung King can't beat it. I'd still go there for that stuff. But I'd say make your own tabs if you can, or if there's a place that does like a big bag of tabs, that would be nice for like a reasonable price because that's going to save you a ton of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's now we're at the point where you're going to start planning on what goes where. And I think that's a good place to stop. Number one, we went from picking your platform to welding on your hardtail to removing all the paint, chopping off all the useless bullshit. By the way, the tabs that like Harley puts on their shit, junk anyways. Like on my last shovel head, the guy had already cut off the transmission mount. But the one that the fifth transmission mount for the fucking shovel head on a stock frame is chintzy, dude. So I made my own fucking 3/8. It was beefy as fuck, dude. That thing didn't move. So take this opportunity. If you can weld, dude, you can put this whole fucking thing back together. You can remake the tabs however you want. So at this point, you have a fucking proper chopper. It's hardtailed. It's a fucking raw slab of metal, and you have the engine, you have the drivetrain. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just have the frame. But this is where the fun starts. This is where you get to imagine what your fucking chopper is going to look like and make frame alterations, right? At this point, you can say, oh, I want to do a Swedish chopper and gooseneck it, and extend the frames. Or you got a fucking frame that your hardtail stretches from here to yaya. You got it way fucking out, And this is where we're going to stop for the week. Unless we forgot anything, Dan. Did we forget anything?
Nope. I was gonna go into a little bit of having raw steel, you know what I mean, if you clean off all your paint and shit, but we can go into that next week because it'll be relevant.
Yeah, what do you no, I think that's good for right now. What would you suggest for that? Because I usually just let it kind of fucking.
So honestly, yeah, here's the deal. If not all, we're not all dealing with stainless steel fucking chopper frames. You know what I mean? That's big dog shit. So we're all dealing with raw mild steel frames. So as you all surely know, this very second that raw steel is exposed to air, it oxidizes instantaneously. So here's my method that I've started doing since the panhead. What I like to do is get the frame and then sandblast the motherfucker right off the rip before I do anything. Take it all apart, bare frame. I got nothing hanging on it. I get it sandblasted. It's absolutely bare. And then I build the bike. And then because during the course of your build, you're going to get greasy, dirty, oily, whatever fingerprints and shit all over your frame that you have sandblasted is now bare. You can try all you fucking want to get all that stuff off there, but I guarantee you at some point down the line, when you paint that thing, you're going to have some fish eyes. So I highly suggest you build your bike, and then when you're ready for paint, you sandblast it again. Okay? Have it sandblasted, have it media blasted, whatever, and get it back immediately.
What's a sandblast job cost these days?
I'm not even sure. Honestly, yeah, I'm not sure. We have a sandblast cabinet at work and shit. Yeah, that's kind of been. I forget how much it was when we had the panhead. I think Alex took care of that now that I think about it. But yeah, I don't know. But it's worth it because then you don't have to sit there all fucking day and get powder coat off with this fucking thing. But that sucks. Been there, done that. Yeah. It's way easier just sandblast that shit. You can, if you're going to do this the right way, and what I will do probably going forward is sandblast your frame and then immediately spray it with epoxy primer immediately. Then you have an epoxy primer everywhere where it's covered is covered in epoxy. You're good to go, right? For as long as you need it to be. And that shit's fucking hard as nails. You can still sand it off and weld. You know what I mean? You can still do the shit you need to do. You can cut shit off. You can whatever. Weld, yeah, it's going to fuck up where the epoxy was. You sand up that fucked up area, and then later on you apply the epoxy primer on the areas that are now bare. You have epoxy base and your shit's good. So that's what I will do going forward. But what I recommend is just don't expect that you're going to knock all your primer or all your powder coat or all your paint off your frame. And then it's going to take you a year to build this bike, and you're getting oil and shit. You're putting in the transmission, the oil tank, the fucking whatever. If you're using used parts, you're going to get oil on something at some point, regardless. You're making the oil line.
Dude, your greasy fucking fingers. Yeah. Like you'll see your fingerprint in rust on the frame.
100%.
You know?
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a great point is so like, yeah, what I'm going to do with this so I still have a little bit of welding to do on this, but after I'm done welding everything and everything's just tacked in place, I was going to do a CRC treatment, which they do like undercoating. It's basically undercoating on cars and shit like that. I use it for vapor honing, so I have it available, and that keeps it pretty good. But you have to reapply it. But once you get this phase is the most laborious phase, I think, of chopper building is getting the frame bare metal, all the tabs cut off, and all the paint off, and fixing any damage to the frame, welding in holes. There's all sorts of holes in your frame stock that they had for stock shit that you're going to want to plug up and weld, so you're going to weld them, and then you got to grind it down, and then you got to get it all smooth again. This is the hardest part, I think, getting over. This is what I spend the most time with, physically sweating and grinding and welding and re-welding and grinding. It takes forever. It's best. Your easiest route is to buy a frame from a manufacturer like Paco.
I was just going to say, we didn't even touch on it.
Yeah, because it's going to save you a ton of time, dude. It's going to save you so much time. I literally will spend a week and a half just grinding paint off, welding holes, cutting off tabs, like windowing the neck. I'm still not even done that fucking job because I got so sick of fucking grinding with a carbide burr and fucking belt sander and shit. So you're going to spend a fuck ton of time doing an aftermarket hardtail and prepping this frame to a point where you're like, all right, it's good and it's prepped. And now I can start welding on tabs and designing the fucking thing. So buckle up, buddy. I always forget. And I always tell myself next time I'm just going to buy a frame. And then I get a fucking cheap attack. I see how much frames cost. I'm like, whoo, I guess a fucking $500 hardtail doesn't sound that bad, but you're going to be putting in work.
Yeah, I've never bought a new frame, but I have used 2 aftermarket frames. And yeah, it's fucking wonderful. It's really nice.
That Sportster with the fucking gas box frame. Beautiful, dude. Mm-hmm. I just had to bolt shit on. I was like, oh, if you need a tab here, it's ready to go. Like it was just ready to rock, dude. Yeah. But if you gotta fucking chop it, you're gonna have to take it the hard way. But I would say don't wait and don't fucking skimp, because as this thing evolves, make sure that your frame is the way that you want it and it's all clean and all the tabs are gone and you're ready to just start fabricating this thing. I would say too, like part of the reason, like right now, I have things just tacked on, right? Because as we'll get into next week, what the next steps are. But when you start fabbing things up, you have to tack things onto your frame, and you're going to have to move things around because things aren't going to work out, And that's the only reason I would say I was going to lean toward like a CRC rust coating thing, because once you blast paint on there, you're going to have to grind it off in certain spots, but it will protect most of it. So maybe it's still a good idea, right? Because it's going to protect most of it. Like the underside of the frame, never going to get a tab down there, right? Like you're not going to, it's going to protect it while it's sitting on your greasy lift and shit. But yeah, doing all that work, like I had like road rash on mine that I had to fucking TIG weld and grind down and all that stuff. And I found a bunch of JB Weld and epoxy and stuff, like gaping holes that was covering up. So definitely take the powder coat off because or whatever paint is on it, because you're gonna find little Easter eggs hidden for you where the frame's
Yeah.
fucked up and you want to repair it at this stage. Get the frame fucking 100% ready to start fabbing on at this point, and then the fun stuff starts. This is not fun. This is work. This is very hard work. At no point during this are you like, this is fucking sick, dude. You just got a frame that you just constantly grinding on and welding and fucking it's lame, dude. But next week we're gonna get into the fun stuff. That's when you actually start fabricating things and putting this thing together. Uh, any closing thoughts? Is there anything else we missed, Dano?
Nope. Other than our album recommendations, I think that's about it.
Oh fuck, you go first. I didn't even think about this.
All right.
The
My
fuck was I
album
listening to this
recommendation.
week?
Your own fucking thoughts, probably. How to Get a Job 101. All right. My album recommendation this week is Vivid Dreams, the newest EP from the band Recollection. It's a super group. So go check that out. I don't think I've done that one before. And if I have, go listen to it again.
All right. I'm gonna say this because this is the only album I actually threw on this week because I have been in resume hell, searching for jobs constantly, being a stay-at-home dad, which is very emasculating. But my daughter was singing fucking "Riding Dirty," so I was like, "All right, let's throw on Chamillionaire, dude." And I played her that
The
album.
Millionaire?
Yeah, dude. I was like, "How do
Yeah.
you even know that fucking song, dude?" But I love that,
Holy shit.
that was a great time for really feel-good, fun music from down south. Chamillionaire, dude.
Dude. Chamillionaire had a fucking hold on me for a minute. What's the evening news or whatever? I fucking love that song, dude.
2005, that first
Damn.
came out.
That's fucking sophomore year of high school for me.
21
That's good shit, dude. Fuck. I'm gonna be on that. That's
She
a
liked
good
it,
one.
though. I was like, "Damn." I don't know where she heard it. She must have heard it on fucking YouTube or something, but I was like,
Yeah.
"I know that song."
That's wicked funny, dude. Damn. I would not expect that. That's awesome. Cool. Thank you, Fat Man, for coming on the shirt. This Machine Kills Proud Boys, COA. Come see them live at the Idle Hand Show 2026. Motherfucker.
Oh, dude. So
We didn't even
stoked.
talk about Idle Hands this week. That's fucking crazy.
That's fucked up, dude. That's fucked up.
Fucked up. Fucked
Idle
up.
Hands. I'll just say this about Idle Hands, guys. Listen up. This is the end. We're gonna end the show soon, but I want to let you know something. When I say that the Idle Hands show is going to be the greatest chopper show in the history of chopper shows, I'm not blowing smoke in your sweatpants, dude. I'm not fucking around. I'm not joking. I really think, I believe that it actually is. Just like when I say that this is the greatest podcast ever, I'm not fucking around, dude. This is the best podcast ever. This is my favorite podcast, hands down. An Idle Hand show will be the fucking best show you ever gone to. It's a chopper carnival. It's a free fucking show packed full of choppers, $10,000 prize, chopper games, fucking funnel cake, dude, dollar beers, hardcore show. You've never been to and never will be to a better show. And if you don't go to this fucking show, you fucked up. You missed the first year. First year is always the best. We're going to be pushing the limits. I'm feeling to get arrested, bro.
I drive by the dealership. I drive by the dealership every fucking day on my way home, man. It's like, dude, I can't wait to drive by and see fucking thousands of people and bikes up there. It's going to be fucking awesome. So,
yeah,
I'm really excited.
And an insult comic clown. It's going to be so fucking fun, dude. And if you miss it,
yep,
you don't have your priorities straight, dude. Sorry.
It's going to be
actually,
so
it's going to be the greatest show on earth. And if you miss the first year, you fucked up because you're going to come the second year. You're going to be a fucking, what are you jumping on the Idle Hands bandwagon now that it's cool? Fucking poser. All right, let's shut this shit down. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us in the live chat. Watch out for part 2 of How to Build a Chopper, Like a Lowlife, working title. Until next week, you motherfuckers, get in the garage, build a goddamn chopper, chop that fucking ass end off, put a fucking hardtail on it, dude. Get in trouble. Have fun. Never stop chopping. Deadbeat Customs. Steve over at Deadbeat Customs is all about grassroots motorcycle riders who build and customize their bikes. When it comes to building a custom motorcycle, they carry the best brands available. Go visit their brick and mortar store in Tewksbury, Mass, or at deadbeatcustoms.com. Remember, enter code LOWLIFE at checkout to save some money. Stay Strong Co. Jean-Luc makes the most heavenly hot sauces in the world. The shit, the shits, and hotter than a Harley and a pepper patch, Low Life chopper sauce. Go to staystrongco.org today and grab yourself the holy trinity of hot sauces. Beck Built Fab. Dustin is the plug for excess chopper parts. Drum, disc brake, mid controls, hand shifters, foot clutch, modded worm gears, intakes, and more. He can do any fabrication, weld repair, upholstery, or maintenance job. Check him out at beckbuiltfab.com. Revenant Chop Co. Connor isn't about overpriced lifestyle merch. It's chop clothing made for the garage, for the blue-collar builder who'd rather spend his money on parts than trendy tees. It's not just another stack of black t-shirts either. He drops wild garage-born designs that stand out, gear that looks great, covered in grease, or on the side of the road. Check out RevenantChoppers.com.